Hello and welcome back to the Sideline Vision. I'm your host, Nick Rampe, joined by Ty Wellemeyer and Sam Dicus. Unfortunately, Reece, Leddy, our hero, our champion, is on injured reserve with a light head cold. Could not make it today. A little nasally in the voice, not easy on the ears. That being said, still joined by Ty, still joined by Sam. Let's start with Ty. Ty, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. It sucks that Reece has a minor head cold, as you would say. Are we putting him on injured reserve for just that?
I'm going to be honest. I'm actually not sure how sick he is, but he wasn't in at all today. So I'm taking that as an injured reserve type move. Sam, how are you over there?
I'm doing great. Doing a lot better knowing that there will be no Mac Jones talk on this pod.
Yeah, we couldn't eliminate the Vikings talk. Well, maybe we did, but we couldn't get rid of the Vikings Notre Dame fan. However, we were able to eliminate the Mac Jones fan. So we're getting there.
I feel like our podcast was better, though, with the amount of Mac Jones talk.
That makes one of us. Yeah, and I noticed actually our first episode we had 2 hosts, and then by the third we had 3, and then by the 5th we had 4. I thought we were just going to keep exponentially growing. We only got 4 mics in here. I was getting a little concerned.
I mean, I was going to invite a 5th guy, and he was just going to sit on Reece's lap.
Yeah, you did try to invite a 5th guy. That didn't work out, and Reece is sick, so just 3 of us today. Let's get into it. Starting, as always, with instant replay, looking back on everything that happened in the last week of Belmont sports. I'm going to start us off with men's soccer. 2-0 in the last week. Beat Southern Indiana 3-0 and beat Lipscomb in the Battle of the Boulevard 2-0. Couple big wins. Team still undefeated. Now sits at 5-0-3. And I wanted to shout out someone whose name I may butcher. Freshman Paul Claes Nielsen from Denmark, I believe, Copenhagen. Freshman scored his first career goal against Southern Indiana and then had 2 assists, assisted on both goals against Lipscomb, his first 2 assists. So I was going to say heck of a start. We're 8 games in now, but
heck of a start. 8 games in.
Heck of a way to get hot over a 1-week span. Women's soccer, unfortunately, not reveling in the same amount of victory. They played 1 match, lost to Southern Illinois on Friday, 1-2. Freshman Maggie Garrich, I did want to shout out, scored her first career goal in that game. But women's soccer now falls to 2-3-4 on the season. They haven't won since the day we record this is September 24th. So exactly 1 month ago, August 24th, was their last win. They're 0-2-4 in that span. They tied 4 games consecutively and have since lost 2 games consecutively. I feel like we've talked about them struggling a lot. I don't mean to harp on it, but it gets to a point, I suppose.
It feels like we're a broken record, but there's only so many ways that you can mention they're on a skid.
Yeah.
Before it gets tiring.
Before that just is what it is.
It's just a fact now. It's just a fact of life that women's soccer is on a skid.
Yeah. About halfway through the season, 2-3-4. If you ignore the 4, they're 2-3. If you take, I
mean, they're 2-3.
If you take out the things you don't like, it looks good.
We're doing math on this podcast
if you take out the ties, they're 2-3. I think just having a smallest number in the win column as opposed to the loss and tie column makes it look maybe a little worse than it is. Obviously, like Ty mentioned, they are on a bit of a skid, but there's still time. But they certainly need to start picking it up as we get towards the end of the season.
There's a lot of conference play where they can turn this around.
Exactly.
So we can only hope.
And those are the most important games, really.
They really are.
So, anyways, from a lower note to a higher note, I'm going to swing it over to Sam with volleyball.
Yeah, so we were talking about that big Battle of the Boulevard game. Belmont came out on top, beat Lipscomb 3-1. And starting off, it did not look great. They lost the first set very badly, 25-13. They followed that up with 3 straight set wins and the first Battle of the Boulevard win in 14 years. Made it 9 consecutive wins for the Bruins on the season, and Fritz Rosenberg became the first head coach out of the last 4 head coaches to win a Battle of the Boulevard. That was his first big test in my eyes. And really, it just came down to them outsizing Lipscomb. They had 9 blocks, which made up for their low kill total of just 42, a theme that would kind of persist in the UC Irvine game that they lost 3-1. And it was kind of just the inverse of the Lipscomb match. It was a lot of momentum after that Lipscomb game that they couldn't capitalize on. Belmont's 9-game win streak came to an end. UC Irvine got just their second win in the last 8 games, and they salvaged their weekend. They lost both Lipscomb and Vanderbilt on their 3-day road trip in Nashville. But as I said, it was an inverse of the Lipscomb game. Belmont won the first set 25-13, and then from there just lost 3 very tightly contested sets. They would really the problem with what it was is they lost it in the middle. Start off hot, and then UC Irvine get on a little run there and try and come back too little too late. But they had a great day from the service line with 9 aces, which seems like a lot to me. And some individual performances across the 2 games. Brooke Gilliland had 28 kills and 3 aces. Jordan Jaikovsky, again, her double-digit assist streak has expanded to 11 matches. She now has 6 matches of 20-plus assists after back-to-back 22-assist games. And Bella Mathis had 6 blocks, 4 against that UC Irvine team that we mentioned had a lot of 6-footers, had 6 aces and 10 kills in the 2 match. And when she's on, she is overpoweringly good, just like she demonstrated in these 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a little unfortunate to watch a win streak die out, but they all must come to an end.
That's the thing is, we've been talking about this for a while, Nick. I feel like it's when is the magic going to end? Now, looking towards the future, we're entering conference play. Can the Bruins redeem themselves from that loss to UC Irvine? And that's something we'll talk about soon.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, still 9-2 on the year, I believe.
Yeah, so Sam mentioned that this was Fritz Rosenberg. He was the first coach in 4 coaches to win against Lipscomb. That's a program-setting win early in the tenure. So it's really good to see. It's shown that he has his team in a good mindset. But yeah, conference play is going to be a real test.
And I think if they had to lose a match, UC Irvine's a great one. Heading into conference play like that, you had that big 9-match win streak. You saw what it was like when you're getting going against some teams that, frankly, you're not going to be playing against late in the season. There was some lesser opponents. UC Irvine's a very good squad, and it kind of showed some flaws in the middle parts of sets for the volleyball team that I think that going forward they'll be able to capitalize on in these conference games, the games that really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I got nothing to add. And speaking of me having nothing to add, now I'm going to swing it over to Ty, talk about men's golf and women's tennis.
Yeah, men's golf finished tied for 3rd at the Estegmeyer Invitational at Ball State in Muncie, Indiana, the great city that it is. Senior Connor Brown placed 6th overall to lead the Bruins. He also led the team at the Grover Page Classic at UT Martin, so he's one to look out for, is having a really good season to start. Heading to women's tennis, Nick and Sam, this was also a dun-dun-dun hidden duel. Ooh. This was the Belmont Lipscomb Invitational. Friday, they played ETSU and MTSU. That would be East Tennessee State University and Middle Tennessee State University. They picked up a pair of singles wins. Hannah Sokolovich and Libby Hamilton won those. Saturday, they played Eastern Kentucky and Lipscomb, 4 doubles and 2 singles wins. And then Sunday, they earned a pair of doubles wins over Lipscomb. Unfortunately, these do not count towards any record, but it's just a good scrimmage to see where you're at before the actual season starts.
They're just having fun out there.
They're having fun, they're trying hard, and tennis is fun to watch.
It is, and I need to do that more. I need to watch more tennis.
That's going to be a mission. Sideline vision.
All right, well, don't make it a mission, because then I'm actually going to have to do it.
Live recording from the tennis.
I don't say anything. It's just me turning my head back and forth over and over again, like, ooh.
What a shot.
Well, that's everything that happened in the past week. Now going over to future focus, we're going to start off with Sam once again talking about volleyball.
Well, we alluded to it earlier, but we're starting conference play against Murray State at home Thursday at 6 p.m. It is a red-out game, and if nothing else, they're giving out free T-shirts. So I think that's a good reason to show up.
Yeah,
show up and show out.
Free T-shirts, man.
Absolutely, but nobody's played anybody yet. Like I said, beginning of conference play. But based on the record so far, Belmont ranked number 1, Murray State ranked dead last because they're 2-7 on the year. They've lost 5 in a row, 4 of which were sweeps. So coming in with a lot to prove. David Schwepker, 28 years as a head coach there versus Fritz Rosenberg's conference coaching debut. So let's just kind of see how a long tenured coach, and I've been the coach for 11 matches, kind of duke it out here in the beginning. And then moving on, they will be playing Indiana State, who are 6-6 at the time of recording. That's on Saturday in Indiana State. Belmont has won each of their last 2 matchups and taking a break from the game right here. Indiana is having a versus cancer night. They're looking for $3,000 in donation before the match to help battle childhood brain cancer. And I'm going to go ahead and plug their donation page, team.curethekids.org/ISU VBall 2025.
Yeah,
It's a good cause.
that's a great cause.
I can't even riff off that. It's a great cause, and I'm glad you're shouting it out, man.
Yeah, that's a good call. Good shout. I'm going to take over now for women's and men's soccer. Started men's and women's. Now we even it out, go women's to men's. Women's soccer has a couple conference matchups this week as well, as we mentioned earlier. They take on Northern Iowa at home on Sunday. Northern Iowa is currently 3-2-2. And then they have another home match on Tuesday. This one's against Drake, who is 4-3-3. A couple of teams with both similar records to each other and to Belmont. Hopefully the women's team can pull out some of these games.
It feels like they need to. They need to win at least one of 2 of these for me to feel good about them for the rest of the season, I feel like.
Yeah, we're certainly at a point where it's now or never, and I'd rather it not be never.
You don't want to start conference play 0-2, especially to teams that have like
Middling records.
Good but not great records.
And then men's soccer has just one game this week. They play at Western Michigan on Friday. I would say shout out to the Broncos. I'm not going to because we're facing them. That being said, Western Michigan did win the hockey championship last year. Just throwing that out there.
But this is soccer, Nick.
Yeah, but they're playing in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Can you even spell Kalamazoo? Yes, I can. I know you can. Please don't. Western Michigan, just 2-6 record on the season. Men's soccer's been killing it. Still undefeated, 5-0-3. Hope to make that at least 5-0-4, but hopefully 6-0-3 on Friday.
I mean, with a 2-6 record from Western Michigan, you could only assume that men's soccer will stay undefeated.
If you know how numbers work, you would assume that Belmont pulls this one out.
Undefeated is greater than 2-6.
That's what they say. That's what
I've heard.
That's what
we've heard
from multiple sources, actually. Now moving, Ty. Let's just keep it with you.
Hey, cross country is heading to Columbia, Missouri, home of Mizzou, for the Gans Creek Classic. Unfortunately, not a lot of information provided as to who is competing in this classic, but you can assume it's maybe some bigger teams with it being hosted by Mizzou. Women's tennis is heading to Illinois State for the Redbird Classic Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like cross country, not a lot of information about opponents. Kind of stinks, but it is what it is. We can only assume Illinois State will be there since they're hosting. Men's golf is heading to SIUE for the Dolink Invitational Monday and Tuesday in Madison, Illinois. There are some schools there, including Bradley, Missouri State. Green Bay, shout out to my cousin who goes there and plays women's soccer. The University of Southern Indiana, shout out Evansville. Lindenwood University, Tennessee State University, University of Tennessee at Martin, so a lot of smaller schools. Women's golf then heads to Butler, where I almost went to school, in Indianapolis, Indiana, for the Butler Invitational Monday and Tuesday. Of course, Butler's going to be there. We also have the University of Dayton, the University of Green Bay, Marshall University, Loyola University of Chicago, and the University of Illinois Chicago. So also some MVC teams in there as well.
Yeah, and that's everything that's coming up in the following week. Not super busy, not the busiest we've seen, but keeping the schedule pretty good and packed still.
Thankfully, or else we'd be out of a job.
That is true. That is true. Well, moving on now from Belmont sports, we switched this segment up again. We've been playing with some stuff, and I feel like we got to the point where I said, you know what, how about everybody just talks about what they want to talk about? Crazy idea, I know.
It's shocking. Shocking we didn't think of this sooner, to be honest with you.
It really is. I'm going to open this up. I always, every time I bring up one of the teams that I root for, a Michigan team, I always say, I hate to do this again. It's pretty evident at this point that I actually love doing it because I do it every single time. But for the topic I chose is the Detroit Tigers collapse in the American League. It's been brutal to watch. They've lost 11 of their last 12 games now. At one point in July, I believe it was July 9th, team had a 14-game lead on the division. And as late as earlier this month, in early September, had an 11-game lead on the division. And in just about 15 games, completely squandered all of that. They've lost the division lead now. At the time of recording, they have 2 games against Cleveland, although I believe they are actually just started the game literally right now. So it'll be, really interesting to see how those 2 games go, because
That game is in delay at the moment.
okay, well, they knew that I was recording, and
They wanted to wait. The Mother Nature knew that you were
Mother
recording.
Nature wanted to let me get my take off before the game started for real. So anyways, Cleveland currently has the division lead. It's still up in the air as to who it goes for. But it's interesting because, this is a team that at one point had a 99.9% chance to make the playoffs that now is at a legitimate threat of losing that. They're only about a game, I believe, above the Astros, or 2 games or something, a game and a half.
I think it's like a game and a half.
And they are technically in the wild card standings now, a game behind Boston. So AL wild card race, very tight, very interesting, but it's more interesting when a team happens to just completely lose it all at once. And what's crazy is throughout the year, even when the team was excelling, they didn't look like maybe a championship caliber team, not really, superstar laden. Skubal, obviously, very good chance at making another Cy Young, but even with 8 All-Stars, like you look at some of them, Javi Baez hasn't played very well since the All-Star break. Zach McKinstry is kind of just still Zach McKinstry. A lot of those guys maybe shouldn't have been All-Stars, and I hate to say that, but at the same time, this collapse isn't completely unforeseen, but I guess of this magnitude, it's a little surprising.
This is why I love baseball. Baseball is the greatest sport in the world because they had a 99.9% chance, like you said, and there's a chance they don't make it because the AL race, as of end of last week, nobody had clinched anything. That is just how close it all is, and I think that MLB has the best postseason, and they have the best lead up to the postseason where it's like, I'm seriously watching these races to see how it plays out. You mentioned not having a superstar. Skubal would be the one guy that I would point to, but he turned around and snapped that baseball between his legs to first base the other day. So, even their guy has kind of shot them in the foot recently. You're talking about the 9 All-Stars. I think that people kind of got on that Detroit hype train. They've been so bad for years. They made a run at it last year. They're in first place. They kind of got maybe some fateful voting. Some people were a little too liberal with voting for Tigers players. But the big thing between them and the Chicago Cubs was they stood pat at the deadline. Yeah. And I think in today's baseball day and age that you have to at least make some acquisitions at the trade deadline if you want to compete in September. And right now they are floundering in September. I think it's because they were just a little too content on July 31st.
I heavily agree with everything you said, even going back to MLB having the best postseason. Heavily agree with that. Sam, you're on a roll. Why don't you talk about what you wanted to talk about? Because I also really like this topic.
This was a very good topic.
Okay, so the NFL was crazy this week.
Extremely.
There's a lot of good football played places not named Nissan Stadium, but a lot of good football this week, and I was hoping that my topic would be the firing of Brian Callahan.
Never.
But of course they don't fire him. So we're going to talk about something I think even a little bit more fun was all these blocked field goals. Starting with the Buccaneers and the Jets, this was just a wild game. I was keeping it up because I had Breece Hall in fantasy, and I was just like, really? Down 23-6 in the third quarter, Buccaneers have a commanding lead. After 2 fourth-quarter Jets touchdowns and a Tampa Bay field goal, it's 26-20 Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's got the ball, lines up for a field goal to make it a 9-point lead. And with a 9-point lead, that's a 2-score game. They would effectively end the game there. Instead, it gets blocked and returned for a 50-yard touchdown to give the Jets a 27-26 lead. Then Baker Mayfield does what Baker Mayfield does, leads the Buccaneers on a game-winning drive, and Chase McLaughlin gets his revenge. 36-yard walk-off field goal gives the Buccaneers a 29-27 win in just a bizarre fourth quarter. And then you look over at the Green Bay Packers and the Cleveland Browns. This is a game that the Packers should have won. If you looked at all the things I filled out about my confidence bracket, I had Green Bay at the very top. I guaranteed they would beat Cleveland. And they led 10-0 with 3 minutes and 38 seconds to go in the game. Cleveland finally gets something gelling on offense, cut it 10-3. Jordan Love on the ensuing possession makes the most boneheaded play you possibly could on a 3rd and 4. Throws an interception. Cleveland takes it all the way to the Green Bay 4, punches it in, ties it at 10. Green Bay lines up for the, at the time, go-ahead 43-yard field goal, and you guessed it, it got blocked with just 27 seconds left. Browns get the ball back, drive down the field, walk off, 55-yard field goal. Good. Huge upset. Nobody had that, and suddenly there's starting to be some cracks in that Green Bay team where it's like, well, I thought they had Micah Parsons. I thought we were supposed to go ahead and give them the Super Bowl trophy. And then the biggest one of all, Rams and Eagles. Eagles are down 19-7 when they fumble on their first drive of the second half. LA scores a one-play touchdown to bring the score 26-7. That, at that point, write them off. Philadelphia has done nothing on offense all year until all of a sudden Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown start getting going. Philadelphia cuts the lead to 26-21 by the end of the third quarter. Rams kick a field goal with 9 minutes left. Philadelphia takes back over and goes on a demoralizing 17-play touchdown scoring drive to give them a 27-26 lead. Now the Rams get the ball back with about 2 minutes to go. Drive down the field. They line up for the game-winning field goal. Blocked. Eagles return it for a meaningless touchdown to make it 33-26. You ask yourself, well, what does that matter? The line was Eagles by 3.5. Those people were covering the whole game if they had the Rams until the very end. One of the worst bad beats you could possibly have as the meaningless touchdown. If somebody just breathes on the guy wrong and he goes down, you get your money. Instead, Eagles by 7.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that a field goal block in and of itself is pretty rare. But the fact that all three of them were essentially blocking a game winner, and granted the Jets lost anyway because of the Jets, but...
Yeah, the football gods just kind of evened that one out.
Yeah,
they're like, New York can't win.
All right, that was too crazy. Like, we went a little too hard on that one. Let's dial it back. Let's get
the reins back here. New York Jets, they have to lose. That's just how it works.
And I believe the Rams also had one blocked last week, and I saw a side-by-side comparison, and it looked like the Eagles might have even seen something on film, that because it looked like the exact same breakdown they had. So I do wonder if there's maybe if there's a little wrinkle there, just a tiny little wrinkle that can be exploited by the special teams coaches.
I apologize. I mentioned the Rams hit a field goal. Actually, it got blocked. They had 2 blocked in that game. That's what it was. Yeah. I had them hitting. That's not true. They were stuck at 26. Philadelphia blocked the field goal and then took over on a 9-minute drive. Yeah. And then the Rams tried it again, got blocked, returned for a touchdown. That's how it went.
Just a really rough weekend for kickers in general, because I know Cam Little missed one. I think John Parker Romo of the Falcons missed 2. Younghoe Koo got cut.
Jake Bates missed from 67 for the record. Jake Bates missed from
67. I think Harrison...
A real chip in,
I think Harrison Butker missed one. I mean, what's going on with kickers?
I don't know.
What's going on?
Aren't we always asking that, though? What's their deal?
I feel like we always are.
Well, speaking of guys that you think, what are they doing? Ty, let's get to your top.
Yeah, so... I love talking football with you guys. I love talking baseball. At my heart, I'm a big college basketball junkie. To me, it's the greatest sport out there. And we had some news that shook the college basketball world on Monday. Official practices started on Monday. Teams can actually practice now. And Auburn's head coach, Bruce Pearl, just retired out of the blue. Now, there are rumors that he was going to retire maybe after this season to run for a seat in the Alabama Senate, which really, that's kind of confusing, but it's Bruce Pearl. He's a bag of mysteries and a bag of fun. Who knows what's going to happen with him? But yeah, he announced his retirement after about 11 seasons at Auburn. He brought them to national relevance. And Auburn just was like, here's Stephen Pearl. Here's a 5-year contract, and Stephen Pearl is the son of Bruce Pearl. So you have to wonder about the timing there, guys. Did he just retire so Auburn would give his son a 5-year contract?
I don't think you have to wonder about the timing.
It's definitely.
I believe the answer is yes.
It is. It's a definite yes. But now the interesting thing is Auburn had a really good roster. They brought back Tahad Pettiford, who was extremely fun to watch. They got Keyshawn Hall from UCF. They got Elijah Freeman, who is a very good D2 player. They got another guy from a D2 school who's really good. They just had a lot of talent. Well, those guys can now enter the transfer portal. They have a 30-day window. I'm curious to see if any of them leave. I assume they won't because Stephen Pearl was like the associate head coach under Bruce. He helped kind of construct that defense. So I doubt the philosophies are that different, but who knows? It's college basketball, transfer portal, anything can happen.
Yeah, really just the most confusing thing to me is why wait this long? Why go through the full summer?
That's the thing that gets me, but then you think about it. If he retires during the summer, we can do a national head coaching search. We can maybe get a guy. Now, official practices have started. You don't want to bring in a completely new guy and then risk Tahad Pettiford leaving for a St. John's or a UConn or any of that. So, Stephen Pearl's here. The kids know him. The kids like him. We'll just give you a 5-year contract, which 5 years to me is crazy.
5 is insane.
5 to me is crazy because he has yet to coach an actual season of basketball for him. But that's a whole other argument.
See, now that you've laid out that scheme, it makes sense to me, but I'm just too pure of mind and of heart and of soul to even concoct such a nepotism scheme.
Well, the thing with Virginia is Tony Bennett retired. It was probably like summer when Tony Bennett of Virginia retired and they hired Ron Sanchez as like the interim head coach, and that just went horribly. Virginia wasn't very good, and Ron Sanchez was fired after a year. So I guess if you think you have your guy, just give him 5 years and see what happens.
And hope he's your guy.
And hope he's good.
Texas A&M did that with Jimbo Fisher, though, and they're going to pay him loads of money not to coach Texas A&M football. So I can see it, but man, I'm with you on the whole, like, 5 years. That's a lot of money. That's a big commitment. Somebody that maybe was just on the coaching staff initially because he was the son.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that there are reports that he's basically the whole person behind Auburn's great defense. But it's also like he's yet to really get into
You read that on brucepearl.com or?
Bruce Pearl's blog?
Yeah.
Man, maybe. But Auburn has had a very good defense these past few years. And Stephen Pearl is the guy who helps kind of construct that. So maybe it will work out. Maybe. But the whole thing with Auburn this year is Bruce Pearl was like, I don't really know what I have from this team, which is always a good sign when the head coach is like, I recruited all these guys, but what do we really have? So Auburn's going to be interesting. I think they'll be good. But without Bruce Pearl, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah. Well, speaking of leaving, that's the end of our episode. Unless anyone else.
I've got nothing to say. That was a great transition.
That's a fantastic transition. You know it. Unless anyone else has anything else to say.
The Vikings look really good.
All right.
I'm happy.
I'm cutting that out. Thank you for listening. We will see you again next week for more Sideline Vision.